Welcome friends to EPG Patashala. I am Dr. N. Janardana, working as additional professor in the Department of Psychiatric Social Work, NIMHANS, Bangalore. Today we are going to discuss about suicide. It's one of the major public health problem which the country has been facing. So we often read in papers about suicide immediately after our 10th standard result or after a PUC result, because of scoring less marks, not meeting the expectation of family members. The child, an adolescent, would take a decision to commit himself, to commit suicide and end his life, so that he would not be facing the consequences and could not face the consequences of being not able to achieve and not able to meet the demands of parents and extended relatives. First, let us understand the word suicide itself. The word suicide derived from Latin word su, which means oneself, side or sedium, a killing, which means oneself killing himself. So it's a multidimensional disorder which results from a complex interaction of biological, genetic, psychological, social and environmental factors. So a lot of studies being conducted and we have come to the conclusion that it's a multidimensional disorder where even biological factors also play a role, genetic factors also play a role in terms of person to make a decision to commit suicide. We have seen in families where committing suicide is one way of coping with the problems. So generally the youngsters would learn to commit suicide as one of the means of coping with the problem and end their life, rather than resisting themselves and then fighting with the problem and overcoming with the problem. A lot of psychological, social and environmental factors also play a major role in determining the person to take a decision of committing suicide. Result of process of cognition based on negative perception of an individual's quality of perception being morbidly distorted by psychiatric disorders or personality, and adamant refusal to go to the unpleasant situation can also make the person to take a decision for committing suicide. Generally, people who commit suicide, if we understand, they would have a lot of negative perceptions about themselves. The self-esteem is going to be low, and your quality of perception always would be the negative side rather than the positive side, which would make the person to take such a drastic decision to end their life as a means to solve the problem. It is characterized as a final common pathway of diverse circumstances of an interdependent network rather than an isolated cause, web of circumstances tightening around a single time and space. So WHO declared fight against suicide as a priority for the first time in the year 2000, and since then a lot of programs been developed, and a lot of manuals also have been brought up by NIMHANS and other institutes in the country in order to deal with the problem. It's been considered one of the public health problem. It's not just the impact is not just on the person himself, but also on the people surrounding him, which need to be understood. There are certain myths and facts about suicide. So I am going to read the myths and facts for your reference. So one is, people who talk about suicide don't complete suicide. So this is a commonly people believe that he just tell lie, simply he's been talking about committing suicide, but he is not serious about the act itself. But the fact is that many people who die by suicide have given definite warnings to family and friends of their intentions. Always take any comment about suicide seriously. So warning signs would be given, but if families are not taking it seriously, if they think that he is simply talking, not serious about it, so that is something wrong. So various studies have proved that they would give warning signals before committing a suicide. Suicide happens without warning. That is a myth people generally believe, but most suicide people give many clues and warning signs regarding their suicidal intention. Sometimes people also would write a letter and reason for their suicide. Suicidal people are fully intent on dying is the myth again. They want to die, so they are committing suicide. But most suicidal people are undecided about living or dying, which is called suicidal ambivalence. So they are confused. During the confusion state, they would end up during the attempt. They really wanted to leave back, but it will be they would have reached to a stage where they may not be able to come out of the act also. Males are more likely to be suicidal. Men complete suicide more often than women. However, women attempt suicide 3 times more often than men. This is the research studies prove. Many a time we have seen women wanting to commit suicide by burning herself, but later she would get rescued and then hospitalized and then need to go the treatment procedure. But study says that it is men who are more in number in terms of completing the suicide. Another myth is asking a depressed person about suicide will push him or her to complete suicide. But studies have shown that patients with depression have these ideas, and talking about them does not increase the risk of them taking them their own life. In depression, suicidal ideas is one of the symptoms. Many people with depression do experience and do wanting to express death wishes and make plans for committing suicide, which need to be taken seriously. Another myth is improvement following a suicide attempt or a crisis means that the risk is over. But most suicide occur within days or weeks of improvement, where the individual has the energy and motivation to actually follow through with his or her suicidal thoughts. That is the research studies been proven. Another myth is that once a person attempts suicide, the pain and the shame will keep them from trying again. The most psychiatric illnesses that ends in suicide is a major depression, a recurring illness. Every time a patient gets depressed, the risk of suicide returns back. Sometimes a bad event can push a person to complete suicide, but suicide results from serious psychiatric disorder, not just a single event, but it can lead to many other events also. In order to understand about suicide, we need to also understand the various terminologies being used. So I am going to read out some of the terminologies which has been used, and we need to understand these concepts so that we will be able to understand the person better. First, let us look at the concept of suicide. It is a self-inflicted death with evidence, either explicit or implicit, that a person intended to die. So person may leave an evidence or may not leave an evidence, but the intention to die is going to be high in the person, the term that suicide, if you have to understand. The second term is suicide attempt. It is a self-injurious behavior with a non-fatal outcome accompanied by evidence, which can be either explicit or implicit, that the person intended to die. So here the attempt would be there, but he wanted to die but may not be successful in completing the suicide. Other concept is aborted suicide attempt, where the potentially self-injurious behavior with evidence, again the evidence can be both explicit or an implicit, but person intended to die but stopped the attempt before physical damage occurred. We have seen few of our clients where they would have made a plan to attempt suicide, either hanging themselves, where they would have tied a rope to the fan and about to hang the rope on their neck, but suddenly they would change their mind and they would have left it. So that will be aborted, like the decision was taken, for some reason the decision has been postponed or stopped. Then suicidal ideation, where the thoughts of serving as an agent of one's own death, where suicidal ideation may vary in seriousness depending on the specificity of suicide plans and the degree of suicidal intent. When we are doing an assessment, we need to understand whether the person is having the suicidal ideation, and that ideation, how the person is planning and what plans he has made in terms of ending his life, those need to be understood. Suicidal intent, where the subjective expectation and desire for a self-destructive act to end in death need to be understood, whether the intent is between just subjective or objective that need to be understood. Then lethality of suicidal behavior, where the objective danger to life associated with a suicide method or action, the lethality is distinct from form and may not always coincide with an individual expectation of what is medically dangerous. Then deliberate self-harm, where they may not be wanting to end their life, but they want to harm themselves. So this is another common problem we have been seeing in young adolescents who are under the custody and the children home, where a small fight and disagreement among the friends or with the staff or with the family members, they may end up deliberately self-harming themselves with the intention of ending their life, but the intention may not be to end their life, to self-harm, so that they can gain the attention of others and try to resolve the problem what they have been facing with either with their inmates or with the staff or with the family members. It's one way of communicating that I am not happy with the discussions what is happening or the decisions what been taken. There are some factors which are associated with increased risk for suicide. So the first factor is suicidal thought or behavior. Suicidal ideas in terms of the current or the previous, suicidal plans current or previous, suicide attempts including aborted or interrupted attempts, lethality of suicidal plans or attempts, then suicide intent. So all these need to be looked at when we are doing an assessment of risk for suicide. Then the psychiatric diagnosis can also act as a factor towards the risk for suicide, where a major depressive disorder or a bipolar disorder, primarily in depressive or a mixed episode, or a schizophrenia, then anorexia nervosa, alcohol use disorder, other substance use disorder, cluster B personality disorder, particularly borderline personality disorder, comorbidity of axis 1 and axis 2 disorders can also contribute towards the suicide. Generally, we have seen clients who are having psychiatric illnesses would end up taking a decision to end their life, where psychiatric illness would have contributed, the depressed state would have contributed for them to take such a decision. There are some physical illnesses which also act as a contributing factor for the person to take decision, like diseases like disease of nervous system, multiple sclerosis, Huntington disease, brain and spinal cord injury, seizure disorder, malignant neoplasm, HIV/AIDS, peptic ulcer, etc. can also contribute towards a person to make a decision. When a person has been diagnosed with an HIV/AIDS, he or she would feel that it's an end of their life and they're worried more in terms of dealing with the stigma and worried about the future of the children. Then one way to cope with this problem, they would feel committing suicide will be an answer for the problem and end up taking a decision of ending their life. Psychosocial features like lack of social support, unemployment, drop in socioeconomic status, all these factors also can contribute towards a person to make a decision for suicide. Yeah, we have seen a few incidences where the drop in their socioeconomic status would be a reason for them to take a decision. Huge loss in their business would have made them to take a decision to commit suicide. It's not only just the person alone, but he may also take a decision to end the life of entire family members because he don't want to face the consequences of huge economic loss. So such social factors also can contribute towards taking a decision for suicide. Other factors include childhood traumas, where the child is being exposed to sexual abuse or physical abuse. The chances for the child to take a decision for ending their life is also going to be more seen, and research studies also have been proving this. Genetic and familial effects, I have talked about the family history of suicide and family history of mental illness can also be as a contributing factor and a risk factor for a person to commit suicide. Psychological factors like a person experiencing hopelessness, psychic pain, severe anxiety, panic attacks, shame, humiliation, psychological turmoil, decreased self-esteem, extreme narcissistic vulnerability, behavioral features, impulsiveness, aggression, including violence against others, agitation. All these things can also contribute and act as a risk factor for suicide. Other cognitive features include loss of executive function, thought construction, polarized thinking, closed-mindedness can also act as a risk contributing factor for risk for suicide. Another demographic factors, various research studies have proved that male gender, like suicides are more among male gender, widowed, divorced, single, marital status, particularly for the men, elderly age group with the greatest proportion risk for suicide. When elderly have been neglected at the family, they would feel committing suicide is the only answer. Adolescent and young adult age group also where they were not able to meet the expectations of either family or impose pressure on themselves, and when they are not able to meet their expectations can end up committing suicide. And suicide has also been seen more among gay, lesbians and bisexual because of their sexual orientation and unable to deal with the stigma associated and unable to deal with the family tension can also contribute or act as a contributing factor for a person to commit for suicide. Now let us look in terms of what are the specific treatment modalities available. The treatment can be looked at primary prevention, secondary prevention and tertiary prevention strategies. Under primary prevention, a national surveillance policy need to be adopted where once we have a policy, the programs would be followed by it becomes mandatory for the government to make programs for suicide prevention programs. Helplines need to be open 24/7 so that people can make call and talk about their distress, and which would help them in terms of postponing their decision or making a change in their decision. So this can happen only when we have a national level policy. Promote local employment so that the unemployment can be reduced at the community. People would find remunerative jobs so that it cannot be a reason for them to commit suicide. Preventing migration is another national level program need to be evolved so that we have been seeing often people migrating from rural areas in search of jobs, and when they come to urban centers they do experience loneliness and unable to cope with the tension, pressure in the urban life can make them to take such decision. So we need to come out with programs where migrations can be prevented. Improving educational status. The government has been spending a lot of money, and nationalized programs have been come where compulsory education being made up to 14 years, and also need for vocational interventions so that person would who has difficulties in terms of attaining academic achievement would be able to take up vocational training and able to lead his life and equip himself so that the skills can help him to find a job and also find a job and take care of his family and his needs. Social mapping for high risk populations need to be looked at, and studies have shown that there have been high risk population, like particularly during like as I explained earlier, during the 10th standard and PUC results. We do read a lot in newspaper that children been committing suicide. Identifying such high risk population and providing interventions would go a long way in preventing suicides. Counseling services for high risk families need to be provided at the community level, and involving media to increase awareness can also act as one of the preventive programs for thing. Under secondary prevention program, which include specialized suicide prevention centers, need to be established at the various community level, not only at the urban places but also at the rural places. Aggressive treatment for mental disorders need to be initiated. The existing manpower infrastructure available in the country may not be able to meet such demand, so there is a need for building capacities at the various levels so that the medical graduates and various health professionals would be equipped themselves in terms of providing and identifying people who are under risk, and appropriate referrals should be made to centers where services can be provided and then prevent suicides. Banning over the counter sale of drugs and easy availability of drugs, and drugs should be only given through a proper prescription given from the doctor, and helplines to expand in rural areas. Not only should be in urban but also in rural area. More adequate training for volunteers, strengthening of emergency services, all need to be carried out as part of secondary prevention strategies. Now, tertiary prevention strategies, which include managing stigma of survivors and bereavement of families, and encouraging suicide survivors to form as a self-help group and start talking about their experiences, and they should be able to educate the media and the people in the community against fighting against stigma. There is a need for more research which need to address the issues and test. A lot of research activities need to be carried out, and in order to test the efficacy of some of the intervention prevention programs which have been developed at the various centers. So research would help us in terms of upscaling such programs. So management of suicide, if you have to look in terms of, we have again as in any other psychiatric condition, pharmacotherapy, psychotherapies and other psychosocial intervention play a major role in the intervention strategy. A pharmacotherapy like antidepressants, treatment of anxiety, mood stabilizer, antipsychotic agents, electroconvulsive therapy can be tried out. Particularly ECT, that is electroconvulsive therapy, can be tried out for people who are having severe depression where the medicines would have not made any major effect. So ECT can act as one as add-on treatment for people to overcome their depression. Psychotherapies where like psychodynamic, psychoanalytic, cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectic behavioral therapy can also be play an important role in helping the person to overcome such thoughts and start leading life in a more pleasurable way, rather than feeling ending life is the only answer to the problem. Other psychosocial interventions include working with families, enhancing social support, building psychosocial competencies, skills, gatekeeper training, etc., which would go a long way in treating these people and preventing further suicides. Most helpful aspects of psychotherapy will be like when we are doing a psychotherapy, we need to validate relationship, work with the emotion, develop autonomy and identity for the client, help them to understand the suicidal behavior, developing self-awareness and constructing personal identity should be the aim of psychotherapy. So no suicide contracts need to be made. Although widely used, no harm or suicide prevention contract must not take the place of a thorough suicide risk assessment itself. A contract need to be made with the client, and the client need to understand the contract and abide with the contract. The guidelines emphasize patient discharge or hospitalization should not be based on the patient willingness or reluctance to enter into suicide prevention contract. No harm contract may be useful in opening up conversation on the availability of clinician and staff for support. However, especially in inpatient setting, the no harm contract specifically is not recommended for use with new patient in emergency room setting or with the psychotic or impulsive patient. It should be done at a later stage. Like public prevention strategies, which include crisis intervention centers to prevent suicide and help people, like helplines need to be open where crisis interventions can be provided. So we have some helplines which have been maintained by like Medico-Pastoral Association in Bangalore, Sneha Vishwas again in Bangalore, Sanjeevani Smriti in Delhi, helpline Mumbai, Sneha in Madras, Sahaya in Hyderabad, helpline again in Bangalore. So a lot of helplines been there in the country which can be utilized. So only thing, we need to have more number of helplines to be established in rural center and small towns. so that people would take the benefit. Judicial initiative concerning suicide. Under the Indian law, suicide and attempt suicide are punishable offence under section 309 IPC, which was which was amended in Rajya Sabha on August 8, 2016, where they looked at decriminalizing the offence of attempt to suicide by passing a mental health care bill, and mental health perspectives was highlighted in the case of suicide. So by this we have come to an end of this module on suicide. So from the last 30 minutes we have learnt about understanding suicide as a public health problem, and what are the myths available, myths being prevailing in the community, and what are the scientific facts with regard to the myths. And we also have looked in terms of various factors associated for risk for suicide, and various interventions which need to be provided, which starts with prevention, like preventive intervention, then secondary prevention, and then tertiary prevention, and how no harm contract need to be established. We have understood, and also we have ended our presentation by the legal framework with regard to the suicide. And for any other further reading, you can look at any psychiatric book, either it can be short textbook of psychiatry by Neeraj and Ahuja, or comprehensive textbook of psychiatry, or Oxford textbook of psychiatry. A chapter on suicide can be read, or you can also read the material which have been provided as part of e-Pathashala. So further reading would help you in understanding the suicide and various intervention strategies which can be adopted. And we do see, we do get many people giving us warning of suicide. Whenever we get such warnings, it need to be taken into seriously, and need to utilize services which are available at the community level, or initiate dialogue with the person and be supportive and intervention which would help the person to change the decision from ending his life. Thank you all, friends.